All right, guys, welcome back. I am Tino Regano, obviously from the Sophisticated Man, back at it with another podcast. Have another guest in the studio today. Brandi, what's going on?
What's up? Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be on.
Of course, of course. So, obviously, I had a bunch of guys on this channel because this is a men's themed channel. So, I figured it'd be very
Yeah.
interesting to get a woman's perspective on the things that I talk about, the type of content that's out there in the men's space. So, I figured I'd bring Brandi on. So, Brandi, why don't you quickly kind of tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess about 4 years ago, I kind of was at like a low, and I just tried to change my life and kind of dive into like a healthy lifestyle and fitness and dove deep into that and entrepreneurial mindset and just really trying to like better myself. So I guess I'm 4 years in. I do a lot of fitness content, a lot of motivational posts, and a lot of food. So I'm definitely in that space a lot. But also more of like being a female leader and being that woman empowerment that I like to throw out there too. I'm in sales full time, my 9 to 5, and then outside, of course, I do a little bit of social media. I do nutrition coaching and all things fitness. So I guess that's a little rundown of me. But I love what you do, so I'm happy to be on and dive deep into this stuff.
No, I appreciate it, and that's one of the reasons I got you on here because anytime I see a content creator who's hustling and I see Brandi hustling, you're always posting stuff, you're always very consistent. So it was an easy pick just to bring somebody on just to speak your mind because I know obviously we have some very big like ambitious mindsets, so I figured that's a hell of a combo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll leave all your Instagram stuff, and if people want to find you towards the end of this, and then we could just throw your links down in the bottom.
For
But
sure.
yeah, guys. So we can kind of get started with the podcast here, and I think the main thing that I wanted to talk about was obviously this is self-improvement related. So we can probably start there because that was something you brought up about self-improvement, about growth. How like not just for men, but for really everybody, how important is that to have that kind of mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. Like I can't emphasize or talk about it enough. Like I said, 4 years ago, I was just at a really low point in my life where I didn't feel like I had a purpose. And it was just like waking up every single day, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Kind of wrapped up in thinking that I needed a person to fulfill happiness and fulfill a purpose. And
Hmm.
you soon to realize that shouldn't be it. So I really dove deep into just myself, and I spent a lot of time in the gym, eating healthy, reading books. And it's taken a while. I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, 4 years in, but it's completely changed my life. I mean, my mindset, my drive, my ambition, like everything that I'm going towards, like it's insane. I really don't have words for it because it feels so good just knowing where I was at 4 years ago. So like yeah, I would say it's probably the most important thing to invest in yourself, and whether that's money, it's time, things that you do, like give it to yourself because there's no better feeling than feeling good and being confident and just living the best life that you can. So
Hmm. Yeah, I love that story because I think that's one of the important pieces of self-improvement is it usually starts from the place of being like, yo, I'm just not satisfied. Like
yeah.
looking at your life and being like, I want more. There could be more here with it could be relationship wise, it could be financial, physical, mental, you name it, like anything. You kind of look at your life and you just feel like what you're getting right now is not up to your current standards or what you want. So I think that's really important for guys to understand is when I talk about the things that I talk about, when Brandy talks about these things here, it's it's being aware enough to know like, hey, what I have right now, it might suck, it might not be very good, it might just be just unsatisfactory right now, but that's the point. Because like I just talked about this with my brother the other day. Like it should piss you off in a sense. You'd be like, why am I not where I want to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's kind of dive into that a little bit too, because I think motivation is one of those things that gets thrown out there a ton. And
Hmm.
I'm a big like I'm a big like motivation hater. I think it's just honestly just discipline that really creates any kind of momentum and consistency.
Yep.
Um where does momentum play a role for you personally in terms of just like trying to get to that next level and just kind of achieve more?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to consistency, right? Like you've got
Mhm.
to build the habits and you've got to do it 80% of your time. Like I live by the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of your life should be, healthy, wanting to get better. And then that 20% of life is doing the fun things and going out and drinking and enjoying like the little things in life. But consistency, like doing
Mhm.
it every day, building the habits. And I like motivation, but I think it is bullshit because at the end of the day, you
For
need
sure.
discipline. Because if you're not disciplined to these goals, you're never going to get there because I don't know, you're just not going to be consistent and you're not going to fulfill that. So,
Hmm.
um, it's consistency for me, just showing up every
Yep.
single day and having a plan, knowing what I'm going to do. I think is huge too, not just kind of going with the flow and hoping it works out.
Hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think it's funny that once you start to really build that consistency, you start to build that discipline in yourself, you can kind of pick that out in other people. You're like, oh, whoa, that person's disciplined or that person's consistent because you
Yep,
already see that and that reflects. So it's
exactly.
kind of on like on the same coin too. You also notice when somebody isn't. I'm like, oh, that guy's really slacking, or this person's really
Yep.
slacking, and it's clear and kind of, kind of leading into the dating question, how easy is it to kind of see a man specifically who's like just doesn't have his life together? Like he's clearly undisciplined, or if he is consistent, it's with the wrong things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what thing that irritates me the most is like the words. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I do this or oh, I do that. And then the
Hmm.
actions are completely different. And then it's like, really though? Is that
Right.
you? I think actions are huge. If they're not showing it, then they're not doing it. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's pretty sad, but I see it a lot on my side of things with the dating world
For sure.
and men. So it's
For sure. I mean, you bring up a good point because I think what you're talking about is congruence too, right? Like saying what you're doing, backing it up with action. If I say I'm
yep,
going to go to the gym X amount of times a week, if I say I'm going to eat healthy, well, I
yep,
better be doing it if I'm actually speaking that and telling people. And
right.
I mean, this is just my opinion because I'm a guy, but from a woman's perspective, like that
Yeah.
has to be one of probably the most like unattractive things in a man as a guy who's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but then just completely just lies and doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's just disappointing. Like you're
Yeah.
just consistent. It's like over and over of disappointment. And it's like if you're not, especially just with myself and how I live, if you're not wanting to build with me and you're not wanting to get better and do these things you're saying, then like you're gonna
Mm,
drag me down with you. Because if I'm spending all this time with you and that's you, those are your habits and what you're doing, that's gonna bring me down too. Because you really are who you surround yourself with.
for
So if
sure.
you're spending a lot of time with that person and they're not doing what they're saying, you could easily pick up on those bad habits and then, kind of crush yourself in that sense. So,
Mm. Yeah, 100%. And I've always believed the quote of like, you know, the five people you surround yourself with, you're going to be the sixth. Like if you're hanging around
yep.
five geniuses, you're going to be the next genius. You hang around five losers, you're going to be the next loser. So
Yep.
it's
I've heard
something
that a
that
lot.
is it's so true because I think when you really do hang around people, like I think everybody is like, human beings are very like tribalistic. Like we like to be in groups, very
Yep.
social creatures. Men specifically, I think like we need that just that culture of strong like friendship, male friendships. And I've had an opportunity of being around friends at one point in my life where they just didn't want to do the same things. Like
Yep.
they party all the time, maybe smoke
Mm-hmm.
weed, drink, just whatever
Yep.
it was, chase girls around all the time, right? And
Mm-hmm.
because I was hanging around that, that's what I ended up doing. And that was just because, well, that's what the group wanted to do. Why
Yep.
not? I don't want to upset anybody. And I think that I think is a big problem today is like people are afraid to more or less just go against the grain or just do something that the group doesn't want to do. What are your
Yep.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, that was me at one point
Yeah.
back in college. Like that's what everyone was doing. And even the first year after college, like you were just stuck in that let's party Thursday through Sunday. Like let's just make it to Friday so we can party and surround ourselves with guys and flirt and do all these, silly things. And I
Hmm.
look back on that and it really is like if you're around those people, that's what you're inclined to do because you think it's cool because that's what everyone else is doing. And it's sad because I've lost a lot of friends over the years with me diving
For
deep
sure.
into personal growth. And you really realize that were they true friends or were they just a good time?
Mm,
And it sucks because that hurts, right? Losing friends, but you do want to surround yourself with people who have the same goals. And you soon to realize that this journey of success and mindset and health, it's very, very lonely.
mhm,
So when you find good people with good conversations like yourself, it's always nice to have. So
for sure.
yeah, it happens a lot though. I mean, that's what's normal nowadays.
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be kind of the mainstream appeal is like just party, get drunk, get laid. That's it. It's
Hmm.
that's just
Yep.
fun, you know? And
Yep.
it just leads to so much negativity. And having been down some of that road myself, it just leads to a lot of emptiness too, you know, because I think
Yeah.
you mentioned purpose earlier, and that's something I pound that down guys' throats. Like you have purpose, have purpose, have purpose, follow a purpose, like have something. Because I
Yeah.
think too many guys, and I've seen them, I've seen so many of them these days where they put so much focus on just trying to get women. And it's
Yep.
like, guys, people watching this, they understand this. I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Having that, having the priorities in order. Like if you have your purpose in order, you know what you're following, you're building something. Women are gonna like you anyway. It's like you don't have to try that hard. I just
Hmm.
think guys really like they mix up those priorities a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree. I see that a lot on the female side too, where
Yeah,
we're so solely focused on finding a man, partying, getting laid, and like, is that really a like that's not a purpose, and like that's
for
not what
sure.
you're meant to be here for. And
Hmm.
people just don't want to dive deep into to growth, and it's sad. I'm actually curious about that side for males because I hear a lot and I see a lot of wanting to just have the hottest girl so you can brag to your friends in the group. And I guess I don't understand like why somebody wouldn't want a female who is into a mindset and healthy living and like actually has a purpose and has a lot to offer than more than just looks.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I guess I'm just curious to hear
Yeah.
that.
Well, from my point of view, I think just based on the guys that I know and even just myself, I think every guy wants to be with a physically like beautiful woman. I mean, I think that's because kind of that's just human nature. It's how we're wired. I think men are generally more visual, so we have to be like stimulated in that way. But this is something I also tell guys too is, even though she checks all those boxes in terms of physical, that's awesome. That's great. I think that needs to be there even for women too. Like obviously everybody likes something good to look at.
Right.
So that is a must. But I think that if you stop there, you're missing out on a ton of like growth and just I think just the connection that you really could have with someone. Because uh, a lot of guys do that where they look for the baddie, they look for the hottest girl, and
Yeah.
you got nothing going on up here. And it's like, bro, you're not. I mean, you might like her for a minute, maybe a week, but you'll get bored of her really fast,
Yep.
very fast. And I find that interesting because I don't know if girls are that same way. Like I'm sure some of them are, but I feel like generally women
Yeah.
kind of go like they innately go for that stuff in guys. Like, yeah, he's good looking, but is he ambitious? Does he have like
Hmm.
success traits? Does he have a good mentality? I feel like with
Yep.
women, that's almost more like intuitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I know from myself speaking, at least with my growth. So like 4 years ago, I would have probably told you I was going for the
Hmm.
hottest guy in the group who had muscles and who had this and that and didn't really care about anything else. But
Right.
the older I get and the more that I tap into to growth and who I want to be, I don't, I mean, yeah, that I obviously need to be attracted to that person, but
Right.
more so, I need that person to have like ambition. I need them to have goals that they're chasing. Like there's got to be other things to bring to the table, right?
For sure.
um especially when, an independent female like myself, if I'm doing everything already with, making my own money and taking care of myself, like what are you going to bring to the table?
Hmm.
I think that's huge. At least that's what I would be looking for. I know everybody's different. But again,
Yeah. I think that's interesting too, because I'm glad that you bring that up because I think a lot of women, and I'm not saying you do specifically, but I feel like some women, they're in that mentality and they feel like they can provide for themselves, they can make their own money, do what they
yeah.
want. It almost like it can make a lasting negative impression, I think, sometimes of what men can do. It's like, well, if you can do all those things yourself, like what role does a man serve in your life? And I'm just
Mhm.
curious, just like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you have you
Yeah.
met girls that think that? And even in your own opinion, if that's what you're doing, can you see how a guy does fit into your lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess when you're going, I'm trying to think of the words to say. I think myself being an independent female and again taking care of all the things that, generation wise that men were supposed to like protect, provide,
Right.
um I still see them as like I would still be looking for protection, loyalty, and honestly someone to just do life with,
Mm,
and grow together and do things together. I know it's tough and maybe males are intimidated by females who already are doing all of that themselves. But for me, there's other things that I guess I would look for. I can't speak for all the females out there, so I really don't know. But I guess for
mm,
myself, that's what I would
mm,
I said that's what I would say.
for sure. I think I think like every person like down to their core still kind of honors that same thing. Like men
Hmm.
provide, protect, like be a good leader and stuff like that. Women generally more nurturing, like more emotionally based, kind of more
Hmm.
intuitive. I think that like regardless of what you're doing like career wise, like you could be, let's say for example, a woman's a CEO. At the end of the
Yep.
day, she's really professional, she does her thing, she makes her money. I think personally, like at the end of the day, she would still appreciate a guy who she can look up to, who she admires, who she respects,
Absolutely.
and a guy that can lead her properly and really not like take her out of that role, but like help her kind of like relax into her feminine a little bit and be like, hey, I got it, honey.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about it. I'll take it from here. Um, what's your opinion on that? Because I think some girls might some girls might get like not offended, but like they might take it the wrong way when guys say
Yeah.
that. So like what's your opinion on that?
No, I like that. That's a really good perspective. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, I would love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's like us females who have more masculine energy, we need that male to bring out our feminine side because like
Right.
it's always gonna be there.
Right.
And I myself need that for sure. I would love
Mm-hmm.
somebody to build me up and tell me like, hey, I got this. Like you don't know how
Mm-hmm.
to do everything. Like obviously that's ideal.
Sure.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that because I know some women would be like, oh, I don't need no man, like men are trash, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. It's like,
I
come on, we need
yeah.
each other at the end of
I
the
think
day.
with that saying though, like I think it goes into like manifestation. If you're constantly saying
Good
men are
point.
trash, men are this, like you're gonna attract that kind of person
For
always because you're
sure.
constantly thinking about it, you're constantly talking about it and like you're pushing it away.
Yep.
So I think if you open yourself up to that person, you say, "Oh, I know that there's somebody out there for me," or "I know that there's a man out there who can, do these things I'm looking for." You're gonna attract that versus the trash men that you come across that you want to, say
Hmm.
men are trash. So
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up.
No, I mean, I'm glad you say that because I think it reminds me of the saying, I don't know if you've heard of this. I forget who said this exactly, but what you fear is what you attract. So if you're constantly saying, "Oh, I don't want to date this kind of guy. I don't want to be around like blah blah blah," and then even on a guy's point of view, guys say, "Oh, I don't want a promiscuous woman. I want her to be loyal to me. I don't want her to be a gold digger, blah blah blah." It's the same kind of argument, and I think if you continually tell yourself that's the kind of person that I always see, that's the kind of person that are always out when I'm, looking for someone, well then like that's what you're going to attract because that's all you're paying
Yeah.
attention to.
Right. It's tunnel vision.
Yeah, 100%. So I think like, and I've made a video about this before, but I've always told guys to, instead of that, like obviously be aware of the kind of people that are out there. I'm not saying to be ignorant, but pay attention more about what you want. Like, what is the ideal? You want
Yep.
X kind of woman? Great,
Yep.
she's out there. Focus on that. Don't focus on, oh, well, all these other girls on the other side who are doing, party girl
Yep.
stuff.
Exactly. This might be a silly analogy, but I think of like a car, for instance. There's a car you really want, and you're constantly thinking about it. You're gonna
Yeah,
see it more. Like at least
exactly.
that happened for me, right? I was wanting a new car. I knew what I wanted. I see that car all of the time now, and I
Yep.
never even knew. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that many people had this car.
Hmm.
But you don't know because you're not thinking about it.
For sure.
So yeah,
Well, the crazy thing is, it's the same analogy with the car. It's not like the car was never there.
right.
That car was
You weren't
always
paying
there.
attention to it.
You just
Yeah.
weren't, yeah, you weren't focused on it. But since you now
Hmm.
have that same car, you're like, whoa, that's kind of weird. I didn't notice like all these cars were around. And I mean, it's so funny because you literally can apply that exact same thing
Yep.
to dating, to like even money, like business or whatever it is. If you have a positive mindset around something, well, you're gonna
Hmm.
get more of it. But if you say, "Oh, well, I can't start a business, it's gonna fail. Everybody fails. Like everybody's broke, nobody makes money. There's nothing but bad women out there." Well, look at your reality, you know.
Yeah. You're gonna attract it then if that's something you're always thinking. And I don't I don't have the statistics or the facts of this like one quote, but I saw it and it was like it takes 10 or 20 seconds of you like consistently thinking of negative thoughts to what will like spiral into like a
Mm,
long negative. So it's like if you even think about it for more than 10 seconds, like you're just going to continuously think that way and it's just going to pile on
yeah.
top of each other. So
Hmm.
um yeah, it's crazy.
I believe it. It's like a negative staircase that you just keep falling down.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so easy to complain and it's easy to
It's
think of
easy.
negative things. It's so easy. It's hard to stay positive when things aren't going the right way or things aren't,
Hmm.
good. So
Right.
if you have the mindset and you have the attitude, there's always going to be something good that comes out of it, no matter what.
Hmm. I agree 100%. And to even add to that too, there was another study done. I think it was like a psychological study about your thoughts and how many thoughts you have per day. It's like something like millions and millions like of thoughts per day, right?
Yep.
And the craziest thing about that study was um that the thoughts that we have generally throughout the day are like exactly the same. Like I think it said like over 90% of your thoughts are the same every day. So even like
Wow.
thinking about that, like thinking about,
Yep.
wow, like I'm never going to be successful, like
Hmm.
negative thought loops like that. If you're thinking that all day, every day, I mean, it's literally going to show up in your life because that's all you're
Yep.
attracting.
Exactly. And it's like, how do we turn that around though? Like, I think that's a lot. I get
Mhm.
that asked a lot. Like, well, how did you change? How did you
Yeah.
start building this lifestyle? And well, everyone's got to start somewhere. Everyone's on a different journey and it's tough. But I genuinely think the hardest part of any kind of self-development journey,
Mhm.
just starting is what's hard because
For
you're
sure.
building so many new habits and there's so many new and very uncomfortable things that are coming into your life that you have to be okay with. And again,
Hmm.
being uncomfortable is hard, but I always go back to being overweight and being broke is a hard lifestyle, but so is being healthy and in shape and being rich. It's a hard, you got to choose your heart at the
Pick
end
your
of the
heart.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I know what
Yep.
I'm choosing.
100%. I literally just saw that quote today. It's funny you say that, but it's like pick your battle. Is it going to be your battle with addiction, with
Mhm.
pornography, even like your battle
Yeah.
with like just negative things, or your battle to actually achieve the things that you want, more money, more success, more
Yep.
connections, better relationships. So yeah, pick your heart. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, I was gonna say something about that I forget now. Um, what were we just talking about again?
Choose your heart. So
Choose
like
your
if you're
heart.
living if you're broke and you're you're overweight or if you want to
Mm,
be in shape or successful.
right. Yeah, yeah, that's what I was gonna say is it's funny because it's not so much like there's a certain level I think to self-improvement that is not talked about. Obviously,
Hmm.
everybody knows like implement good habits, like start doing better things, read books, do this,
Yep.
do that. That is a piece of it. I think an even harder piece to self-improvement that isn't even talked about is unlearning all the negative shit that you've had this entire time because there's patterns that are in there. And
Yep.
anytime that you go to do something new, like say, for example, you want to start a business, well, there's old patterns of giving up too early or
Yep.
not being consistent or not being disciplined. So you have to
Hmm.
like, as you're learning, almost unlearn some of the stuff that was already in there that is
Yeah,
has been screwing you up. Like you're like
for
imagine like your
sure.
brain's like a software. You're updating the
Yeah.
software and like debugging the stuff that's already in there. So it's interesting
Yeah. Yeah. It takes time too. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people don't realize that like success doesn't happen overnight. Losing weight doesn't happen overnight, but people are
yeah,
constantly trying to find fast fixes to these things. And
for sure.
everybody always spirals out of it because in the end of the day, those things take time. And I'm not talking like a month, I'm talking months, years. Like the shit
Oh
takes
yeah.
time because you constantly have to build on it and you got to stay consistent. And again,
Mm.
it's easy to give up. So I think a lot of people, that's what a lot struggle with is being patient with the results.
100%. I I was definitely like really, really took me a long time to understand patience
Yep.
and to really understand that like even when you're not seeing results, you still have to continue moving forward because
Yep.
like that there was like an image that showed exactly like what I mean here. There was like a miner and there was like actually there was two miners. On one side there was a guy he was just chucking away, he was like going to town and he gets this little diamond piece after he's like, I don't know, maybe a month or so into it. And he's picking up this little diamond and he's happy as hell. But the guy next to him ditches way deeper, like he's going way further. He has nothing. And he stops. And then like if you zoom out of the image, there's this massive like catacomb of nothing but diamonds. And he was like
Yep.
just an inch away. And it just shows you that you might be closer than you think when it comes to really getting the things that you want. You just have to keep going and
Yeah.
have to just be resilient.
I like that. It kind of shows that, like, again, everyone is on a different journey and it might take some a little bit longer to achieve that versus others
Mhm.
might see faster success, which
Yep.
again, it's all fair and game though if you just stay consistent.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%. Let's let's bring it back to some of the things we were talking about with like the masculine, the feminine, because that's a big
Yeah.
thing that I talk about in my
Yep.
content. And in your opinion, as a woman, because I think this is really interesting, because I've always talked to guys about this, so it's interesting to get
Yeah.
a woman's perspective when it comes to like masculinity and like men like really stepping up and being, full like filling out their potential essentially. Um, in your point of view, like how do you see that showing up in a guy? Like if you look at a guy and say, "Whoa, this dude he's on his shit," and you just know, like, what does that look like? I guess from your perspective.
Yeah. I think in it's tough to just like look at somebody and say like, oh, he's on his shit. But if I'm spending time or I'm around that person,
Mm,
um, I think it's just like hard work and like I'm trying to think of an example of somebody that I actually knew was like, wow, holy shit. Going to the gym, like taking care of themselves and like putting their business first. Like I
yeah,
wasn't their first, I'm not their like the full circle of attention. They like there's other things that they're worried about, like their business, they're worried about the gym, they're worried about like
yeah,
eating good, they're worried about other things that don't relate and to meat, right? I don't think like a man's sole purpose should be focused on a woman and like
facts.
providing for her. So like you can tell from a man who's constantly wanting to talk to you 24/7 and like was solely
Mm,
focused on like talking to you versus maybe splitting all of these different things that he's worried about. I think that that's probably what you
hmm
can tell.
Yeah. Yes, 1,000%. Because I used to be that other guy where all my focus would be into the girl I was talking to, or I just text her all day, and then
Yep.
like I think I made a video about this before, but you put so much stock into just this one girl, or just the idea of being with somebody,
Yeah.
and you rely all your happiness, all your fulfillment, all your excitement into that person. So
Hmm.
and this happened to me where you texted them, let's say for example, and they don't text you back for hours, maybe a whole day.
Yep.
And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what am I gonna do now? Because that's where my
Hmm.
excitement came. And
Yeah,
if you don't have that, what do you have left? Like, what are you left with? So
exactly.
what you're saying is spot on, because if you have a purpose, for example, which I tell men to get on, like have goals, have things you're building. If you have that stuff, you're not worried about a girl texting you back. I mean, you could
No.
still care for her. You could still
Yeah.
obviously be good to her, and that's the funny thing about being a provider. What are you going to provide if you have nothing and you're just texting her? Like,
Yeah.
what is there to provide?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you said
yeah,
that's a lot of time and energy put into a person, and
yeah,
I hate it, but people are unreliable. There are other things that will never give up on you, like money or the gym or a
for
business if
sure.
you focus on that stuff. I know me
Hmm.
personally, 4 or 5 years ago, I would get pissed if a man wasn't texting me like immediately back. But now I think of that and
Yeah,
I like see where I'm at now. I'm like, that's so silly. That's so much time and effort. Like I don't have it.
it is.
And it's so much better too because not only can you catch up and talk about all the things that you're doing together instead of it just being
Right.
every second that what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Like
Hmm.
no, let's
Yep.
chill. Like let's do our thing. Let's build what we're trying to build and
Hmm.
then let's talk at the end of the day or let's talk in a couple days. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
so much better. It is so much better.
Hmm. That is a very good point, because in my own life I've experienced that, where recently, I was in a relationship and we did that where we'd hang out like multiple times a day, or not a day, multiple times a week.
Hmm.
And it would get to the point where like you almost get sick of the person, not in like a
Yeah.
negative way, but you're just like,
Yeah.
what is there? What else are we going to talk about? I just saw you.
Exact. Yeah, you run out of things to talk about, especially if
Yeah.
you're seeing each other every day and you're texting all day long. Like I can't think of what you could possibly like, oh, just ate a chip. What about you? You know what I mean? It's like,
Legit.
okay,
Saw
like
this new TikTok.
what is the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that builds and like that's such a healthy relationship in my eyes. I mean, I might not be
Agreed.
in a healthy relationship, but like that's what I envision a healthy relationship looking like
Hmm.
is not talking every second of the day, not seeing each other every second of the day, because then you just get warped up into everything that that person is doing and you will lose sight of what you're trying to do. So,
Agreed. Agreed. And I think what's even taboo to talk about, because some people are like, wait a minute, that's like you're ignoring somebody. You're really not. I think um an important piece to talk about with relationships is mystery builds intrigue, and intrigue brings attraction. And I'm not saying like you're being manipulated when you're doing this, like you're just like ghosting them or ignoring them. That's
right.
immature. You just simply have other things to do. Like you have a busy life.
Yeah.
If you're really working from 7 to 6, like 12-hour, 11-hour days, you might not be able to text somebody at the drop of a hat every minute. And from like a girl's point of view, I'm sure she's thinking, man, what's he doing? Like, what's he up to right
Yeah.
now? She's gonna
Yeah.
wonder about you, and
Yeah.
that's literally gonna make her more attracted. She's like, man, this guy has stuff going on. I'm not the only
Yep.
thing that he has going on in his life.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. If they're texting back like 30 seconds after you text them every single time,
Yep.
no, mm-mm. I
He's
know what
like,
you're
man,
doing, so I don't care what you're doing then, because
yep.
yeah, no, that's huge. I definitely think that that's
Hmm.
real from experience too.
For sure.
With guys I've either dated or talked to in the past, like I liked like a couple days, maybe I didn't hear from them. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm more interested and I'm more intrigued because I'm like, what have you been doing?
Right. Yeah,
Like, tell me
100%.
about it. Yeah.
Well, then, like,
So,
I think from a guy's point of view too, that gives him something to share with you. Because it's like,
yeah.
there's a lot of, I mean, like, let's be honest, like the day-to-day grind, a lot of the times is exactly the same. There's not
Exactly.
much difference.
We
So
spend most of our time working.
that's
So,
it. So if I'm texting you Monday and I'm texting you Tuesday, it's like, what'd you do today? Same thing as yesterday, like not much else.
yep.
You know what I mean? So having
Yeah.
that space of just maybe it's not even, it doesn't have to be a day. It could be like the end of the day or, a
Right.
couple of days, whatever it ends up being. You then give the other person a reason to reach out. You give them a reason to look forward to something and hear, oh my God, like tell me about it. What happened? And then it just creates a much more healthy, I think, dynamic.
For
But
sure.
I think people take it the wrong way and they say, oh no, no way.
Yep.
Like I'm not gonna like manipulate this person. I want to talk to them at all points every day, all day long. It's like
Hmm.
you're doing more damage than you're doing good.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, so it's a delicate balance, for sure. So down on that note too, I talk a lot about like um men being building up their value essentially, like being a valuable guy. I have a very clear definition, I think, of what that is. And guys, if you're watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I talk about focus on purpose, building yourself up mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, the whole nine, right? From your perspective, what would
Hmm.
you define as like a high value man? Like, how does he look in your
Yeah.
eyes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in my eyes, a high value man is somebody who has goals, who has something that they're chasing, and in dating perspective, who brings loyalty, is not partying at the club, entertaining a bunch of girls, and is spending all of his time, not working, but like building this life that he wants. Um, and essentially protection, obviously. But
Hmm.
I would say the biggest thing though is just like loyalty, success, however people define success. But I'd say those are the two main huge things that,
Hmm.
I'm would be looking for.
Hmm.
Um, Even communication too, like we just talked about.
For sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the only thing I can
Hmm.
think of, but
I mean, those I would agree. Those are really good traits to have. And likewise, I think like men, just talking to enough guys and knowing kind of where their motivations lie, loyalty is huge, for men. Like men do not want to be with a girl who they know has like kind of been around the road a lot. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah.
They want a loyal girl who knows that has their back, supports them, respects
Yep.
them. Because I
Yep.
think the one thing that shows, I mean, especially, I mean, you could say it both sides, like men and women, really. But I think for men, like it shows such a level of disrespect if you have all these dudes who maybe just texting you all the time, you're entertaining them, you're following a bunch of dudes on Instagram, liking their post and taking pictures with them. It's like that, like to me at least, that shows just a high level of disloyalty.
I
And
agree.
in turn, it's like disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I think and this kind of gets into a deeper issue that we could probably talk about too. I think in culture, in like the mainstream and kind of like what's happening right now, it's almost like, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, but it almost seems like women are being pushed to be more like that. Like, oh, just
Yep.
date a bunch of guys, like, mess with his brain, like play mind games and just text a bunch of guys like you're a queen, you deserve it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like that to me is not like what I would define as a queen. I think
No.
it's pushed on women, I think, a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say so. I think just with so many people and like how many options are out there now with social
Yeah,
media and the internet, like
for
people are
sure.
just getting really hurt and like it's
Hmm.
tough because it goes back to like the person having so many options. So I
Yeah,
think people use that out of despite of insecurities and being hurt. Like I think it's a defense mechanism, at least from my experience in the past. Like
yeah.
it was a defense mechanism where it was just insecurities that I had to work through. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't promote that at all. I mean, it's too much time and energy you could be spending on so many different and better things
Hmm.
than that.
For sure. I would agree 100%. I think what happens is like once you devalue what sex is, then it just becomes like routine. You
Yeah,
know, if you have it with so many different people and you're doing it just, if you're doing it like you're breathing and it just becomes normal, that's a problem. You
that
know,
is a problem. That's a
that is a
huge
big problem.
problem.
Yeah, because then it loses its value. It's like gold. If gold was everywhere and you could pick up a piece of gold walking down the street, nobody would value it because it's all over the place. But
Yeah,
because
it's
gold is
easy.
scarce, exactly, because it's easy to get. But if gold was gone and you can't get it anywhere, it's scarce, well then the value goes up. So same thing is like when you're, and you can even apply this to attention. Like your attention goes down, the interest goes up. Your um promiscuity goes down, your value goes up. And that's
Right. Yeah.
really, honestly, I think men and women, I think men generally, it's sometimes a double standard where guys get a lot of girls and they're almost viewed as more valuable, which I get what they're saying, but I think too, it's better to have sexual discipline, especially as a guy. Like you have to be able to control yourself. Because if you're out
Yeah.
here, same kind of thing. If you're out here just getting with every girl that looks at you, then what does that really say about your attention? It's easy to get.
Yeah. I think in my perspective, like if I see that, like I'm instantly unattracted to you.
Yeah,
That is so unattractive. I don't want someone that anybody could have.
right.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think you're right on
Hmm.
spot with that.
Yeah, because I think it's so popular in the media and it's so popular in culture and music and just different things. It's like just hook up, just do what you want, no consequences, this, that, and the
Yeah,
third. But what does that really lead to? I mean, you kind of look at the people
right.
that live that life and you ask them, hey, are you actually happy? Like, do you have
Hmm.
a fulfilling life? Do you have
Right.
a solid relationships? Do you have a really, um, you have a really committed partner? Usually the
Hmm.
answer is no. I obviously can't speak to everybody, but
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of correlation between that kind of life and just unhappiness, leading to drinking and
Yeah.
abuse and all these different things.
I agree. I think the nightlife and the party life definitely encourages it. But I think it's an escape from reality and
It
escape
definitely is.
from things that you don't even want to fix or attend to. Like everybody, and I hate that. I hate that some people wake up on a Monday and they can't wait for Friday.
Yeah.
Like you're always just wanting this so you can go out and you can party and you can, go have sex or go do some meaningless thing just to escape from reality and get a feel good for what, an hour, 2 hours, however long you're out. And then you
Hmm.
just go right back to Monday though, and you hate your life. Like it's just
Right.
temporary fulfillment. And that's not a way to live. Like you want to be happy every day. We only get one life. You want to be happy every single day and,
Hmm.
chase other things and not escape.
Hmm. No, I agree. It is an escape, and I think that that's something that guys turn to a lot is just different forms of escapism, whether it's either it could be chasing women, it could be drinking, smoking weed, or eating food. A big one's porn, and that's something that I really try to stress in my content is like the guys that maybe have a negative association with women or they think it's no way I could talk to her. She's out of my league, like whatever the excuse is, they turn
Yeah.
to things like porn where it's like, oh, it's easy. It's kind of coming back to what we were saying before. It's easy. It's convenient. I don't have to try. There's no effort. Because when I talk to
Right.
a woman, I fear rejection. But pornography, I got nothing to fear. I just gotta press play and I'm good. There's
Yeah.
no investment on the other person's end. And maybe we could talk about that for a second. Not porn necessarily, but
Yeah.
just the fact that I think guys are running to stuff like that instead of actually um either whether it's purpose or attracting like
Yeah.
high quality women that they can actually have a fulfilling connection with. Just from your point of view, have you seen that? Or do you notice guys that seem like they're a little bit too addicted to their pleasures like that?
Honestly, no. And I think I just honestly don't date a lot, really.
Yeah.
as of recently, but I can't say that that was ever like conversations that like came up. Like I didn't know that part of them. I think that's a very like sacred or like not sacred, but like a very vulnerable thing to talk about
Hmm.
with a woman. So I really don't have any insight on that, but I'm sure it's real and it's there. And it's sad, but I don't think men
Yeah.
should fear rejection from a woman. I think you should try because if you don't try, you're never gonna know.
Hmm. I agreed. Because you can really apply it to anything. I mean, more than just with women. I mean, if you fear rejection with females, what other rejection do you fear? Do you
Yeah.
fear starting that business, getting that dream body, making that money? Most likely, you probably will, because women, it's like a video game. And I'm not saying women are easy, but it's like level one is talking to girls. Once you get comfortable with that, you got all this other shit you could master. I mean, this is like that's like
Yeah.
base level you know,
Right.
once that's accomplished, it's like, all right, cool, I could do this. What else can I
Hmm.
do? Can I build empires, conquer like,
Yeah.
conquer things, build mountains, like whatever it ends up to be. Um, I
Because
think
failure
that's huge.
builds your confidence and you
Yeah,
learn a lot from that because you tried something, it didn't work, but like, hey, let's try something different because that might work. And then
yeah.
that one time it does work, you feel on top of the world and you
Hmm.
build off of that because you know. It's just
Hmm.
that first couple times that you got to do it. It
Yeah,
sucks, it's uncomfortable, but there's
yep.
so many good things that can come out of it.
Literally. I mean, just from my experience, I've noticed that failure is like my biggest teacher because I get to analyze, all right, I did this incorrectly. What can I do now? And to
Hmm.
kind of keep it in context with like the dating stuff, even approaching women, like if you fail with that, now you have some feedback. It's like, all right, maybe I sound a
Yeah.
little creepy when I'm talking to women, or maybe
Yeah.
my energy, my vibe is off. And that gives you real time feedback. But I think the problem is guys they don't even want to like get to that point because then it makes them feel vulnerable and it makes them feel exposed. So like I don't even want to go there because they're just too afraid. Um, and I think like if you're living in fear like that and you're trying to avoid the things that you fear the most, eventually they're
Yeah.
gonna come up to you. They're gonna catch up to you in some way, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I think too with that, like if you feel confident, again, going to like liquid confidence and drinking and partying, like
Yeah.
if you feel good when you're drinking to go up and say something to a girl to want to bring her home, like you're gonna attract that person. Like, right, if you're going out to the bar and you're talking to people at the bar, they're at the bar for a reason. And I
For
think
sure.
like males and females both like are
Yeah.
afraid to say something outside of that environment. Let's say the gym. The gym is talked about like, oh, do you hit on a girl at the gym or yeah, if that's the person that you want, if you
Want
want
to
somebody who's
attract,
at the
yeah.
gym making themselves better than like working out and that lifestyle, why would you not say something to them? Like that's the exact person that you want. But there's
Hmm.
all these social fads out there that like, oh, it's creepy, it's weird, but how does it make it okay for you to do it at a bar? You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
That's
that's
a
an interesting perspective.
yeah. I mean, that's a really good point because I think in a bar context, it's a lot more socially acceptable because they're like, oh, well, I'm there to meet somebody. I got a couple of drinks. Like, it's just kind of like that's what people think and that's what they do when
Yeah,
they go out, as opposed to in the gym. I mean, usually people are there to train. I'm sure some people are there
right.
to socialize. I've seen people like that. Like, they just go there to
Yeah.
talk to people. And you don't want to be like that guy because that guy is like, you'll know people, but you'll have no gains. So, really,
Yeah.
what are you
That's
doing? Um, I
that's
think that
fair.
there is a happy medium though. And I
Yeah.
think your point is really good because I think that's if that's the kind of woman that you want, someone who's fit, who's active, lives a healthy lifestyle, and the gym is like a breeding ground for people that have success like in their mind. Because
Yep.
if they weren't at the gym, well, let me put it this way. If they're at the gym, they probably want more, not just with their physical health, but they want more stuff like mentally,
Yeah.
financially, probably. They want something bigger. And if that's the kind of like person that you want to attract, there's nothing wrong with approaching a person in the gym. I've
Yeah.
actually done that a couple times, and it's a little it's like nerve-wracking at first, but really once you just kind of understand just the social context of what's happening, it's a lot
Yeah,
easier. You
for
literally
sure.
this is some free game for you guys. So I'm gonna put it out right now. All you got to
Yeah.
do, legit, is just walk up to her and don't do it when she's in the middle of her set, when she's like breathing heavy, she's clearly focused. Don't do it then. Do it like when she's in between machines or she's obviously leaving the gym, coming in, whatever, going to the locker room. That's the time to do it. Um, just start small talk. Say, hey, I
Hmm.
saw you in there working out. You're always in here at the same time that I'm in here. What's your name? Like something quick like that
Yep.
and you have a conversation. I mean, I think guys make it so complicated. And I do too. I'm not gonna lie. I've definitely have made it harder than it is in the past. But I think once you develop the skill to start a conversation with anybody, it doesn't have to be women,
Yep.
but with anyone, then it's so much easier. And that's to another point too, is like guys put so much stock into approaching this woman. That's like, all right, forget the woman. Can you even approach this old man walking down the street and greet him
Yeah.
and say what's up? That like I think that on its own, that's a superpower because nobody does that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And it's sad because in the city, I see like walking down the street a lot, like everyone's like in their phone, just
Buried in
like,
their phone. Yeah.
yeah, nobody wants to look up, even crack a smile sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, this is tough.
Legit.
So yeah, I do. I think that's huge, even just saying hi to a stranger, whether it's just to say hi or tell them or give them a
Yeah.
quick compliment. I
Yeah.
commend those people because that takes a lot to do.
hmm It sure does. I mean, even to your point of like when I'm walking down the street, you'll notice people don't even really maintain eye contact that long. Like they're
Yeah.
very like, oh, they don't want to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And they
Yeah.
get really weirded out by that. And it's like
Hmm.
it's nothing negative about maintaining eye contact. It's just like I'm here, I see you, I acknowledge you, and
Hmm.
that's all you're really looking for. And I've noticed that happens a lot with other guys. Like when I'm walking down the street and I see another guy maybe maybe two times out of 10, the guy will actually keep me eye contact and like we'll like nod each other to like, yo, what's up, bro? Like just that
Yeah.
quick little acknowledgement. But most of the time they're not looking back. They're looking down or they're like they feel intimidated or
Yeah.
something. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, nobody does that anymore.
No, I think it's the same thing on the female side. At least I've noticed, like
Yeah.
when I see another female and we're crossing paths, like very rarely are they to look up, crack a smile, like look for more than a second.
hmm
Which is sad. It sucks because I do see like males will do it more frequently to women, at least
Right.
I think in my eyes. It's sad. I think we should all change, but it's tough. Tough to
Yeah.
do that.
It definitely is, but I think to even bring it back to what you were saying about like fitness and getting things started, that's really all it takes. It
Mhm.
takes that first rep. It takes just getting that
Yep.
experience, looking a little dumb for a while,
Yep.
because it's gonna happen. Like you're not gonna know what to do, especially if you don't have that experience. Um, that's why I recommend guys to just spend a lot of time alone. And
Yep.
guys don't want to do that because again, they have to face themselves and that can get very
Yep.
uncomfortable. So
Hmm.
I purposely tell guys to if you want to go to the park, you want to go to a movie, a restaurant by yourself, I encourage you to do that because until you can start dating somebody else and knowing how to have a good time with other people, you have to know how to have a good time with yourself first. Because without that, I mean, you're kind of always in this mindset of like, well, what does the group want to do for fun? Like, what do they want to do? Like, let's just go along
Yep.
with them. It's hard to establish that leadership role because you don't even, you don't haven't even experienced it yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think going back to like the dating thing, like you don't want to rely on everybody else to fulfill happiness. There's
For
got to be
sure.
other things, and you're not going to figure that out until you spend the time alone and you figure out what does make you happy.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's huge.
hmm Yeah, time alone is one of those unspoken things that's like a game changer for pretty
It
much
is.
everything in your
Yeah.
life. Whether you're going through a breakup or you have just like really negative thoughts you're dealing with, or you just want to know what you want to do in life. You don't have a clear idea of where you want to go, spend time alone. I'm not going to be too religious on everybody, but that's what they call like being one with God is literally being by yourself as my light just dies right there. Um,
Yeah. Oh man.
that's a bad omen. But yeah, like just spending time by yourself intentionally. I like to go
Yeah.
on walks in the park just to just clear my head and just kind of, do my own thing. So that that's something I recommend guys and girls too, really, just to put into their daily routine because it's so powerful.
It is so powerful. And I I laugh because sometimes I think like I love my alone time and my space and my like my lifestyle and what I do with myself
Hmm.
so much that I'd be scared to like share that with somebody. Not actually, but I'm like I really do like enjoy time with myself because
Yeah.
it's really powerful. It makes you feel so good, especially if you're spending it on a walk or you're at the gym or you're like having a spa day with yourself. Like I've gone out to
Mm.
eat by myself and been completely content and just
Yeah,
like it's fine. It is okay to be alone.
for
I
sure.
promise.
Yeah, I almost think people feel like they'll get judged if they do so. And like, oh, people are
Yeah.
gonna think I'm weird or it's not normal to go eat food by yourself or go to the movies by yourself. And I would agree it's not normal, but that's because nobody does it. And
Yeah.
because it's not normal, it doesn't mean that it's a negative. It's actually really, really
Yeah.
positive.
I
And
agree.
I think the last time I did that, I went to a movie by myself. I think I went to see it was the new Spider-Man movie like right when it came out. And I went to go see it and then like middle of the day, 12 o'clock matinee. And it was like the best feeling in the world, like empty theater, had the whole place to myself. Like there's not a better feeling than that.
Yeah. Oh my God, I would love that too. But you got to do whatever makes you happy. Like people are going to
Yeah.
talk about you and judge you no matter what you do. Like there's always
Facts.
going to be somebody who's going to say something. So why are we worried? Like we should be doing what we want to do. It's our lives. Like who cares? I don't know. I know
Hmm.
it's easier said than done, like not caring what other people think, but like seriously though, like why do we care so much?
For sure.
I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, on that note, I think like people are afraid to be leaders and not only afraid, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
They're so caught up in culture and what's quote unquote normal that
Hmm.
anything outside of that is viewed as like, you're going against the group, you're going against what everybody wants to do, and you're
Yeah.
labeled a weirdo for that, or like
Yep.
just you looked at funny. And I've always kind of thought that if I'm someone who's doing the stuff that stands out, I'm not meant to fit in. I'm
Yeah,
meant to stand out
for
because
sure.
everybody just wants to fit in. And you really can't lead someone, especially, you can tie this to relationships, you could tie this to business or whatever. You can't lead anything until you lead yourself first. And
Yeah,
the only way you're going to learn how to be a leader is if you learn how to make your own fun. You learn how to make yourself happy, make yourself fulfilled,
for
know what
sure.
your motivations are, know what your fears are, know where you want to take your life. And I think once you get to that point, life's pretty much an adventure. Like after that, you can create your own story.
Yeah, I was about to sneeze, sorry. I agree. And I think too, like with sprouting out and doing what you want to do and being more of a leader, you're gonna start to create followers who want to be in
Right.
that group. And those are the people that you want in your life because those people are gonna support you and those are gonna be your real friends that love you because
Hmm.
you're all, I don't know, like you're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You start to create, that group of whether it's, the sixth person of being at the party, or like we mentioned, like, oh, if you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth. Like, I want to be in that group, whoever's
Right.
leading that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like it's cool and you'll attract the right people.
Mm-hmm. 1,000% agree. Um, I think that's a perfect way to close it out. We're at the top of the hour here. I think that we talked about a lot of amazing
Yeah.
things. Man, we talked about relationships, we talked about success, business, self-growth, time alone. I mean, there's so many good things that we discussed, which is why I tell you guys go run this back a couple times because there's probably stuff you missed the first time around. So this will be recorded on YouTube if this is where you're watching it. Obviously, drop a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to me. You know the whole YouTube thing. Um, I want to thank Brandi for coming on here. This was an awesome conversation. I thought it was really educational too, because it's good to get a woman's point of view on some of the things that I discuss as well. So yeah, where can people find you, Brandi, if they want to check out your social medias and stuff?
Yeah, my Instagram tag is fit by underscore Brandy. There's two underscores, but you can tag that in the comments below. But
Yep.
that's where I spend a lot of my time on Instagram, so that's where you can find me.
Solid. Yeah, I'll post her stuff down below, guys, if you want to check it out. She has a bunch of great recipes on there. So if you're a foodie, you're gonna love her page.
For sure, check it out.
It's worth
Thanks
it.
for having me on this though. I really do like this was very impactful and I love conversations like this. So
Mhm.
again, thanks for having me on. It was awesome.
Most definitely.
I love
Yeah,
what you're doing.
I
Keep doing
appreciate
it.
that. I appreciate that. Likewise, I think you're doing a good job too. Yeah, maybe we'll do this in the future too. I think anytime we have a guest on here, I like to get a couple, couple podcasts with them because usually the conversations are pretty deep like this.
For sure. Yeah. Count me in.
Solid. All right, guys. Well, hope you like that. Obviously, you know what to do if you want to work with me. I have my links down below. I can leave Brandi stuff down below as well. But we're gonna get going. Have an awesome week, guys. We'll see you soon. Peace.